Off today. Here we go.
Hello, everybody. It's Wow Ergonomics. It's midday on a very hot midday on a Wednesday. How are you, Stephen? We've got our lovely banner up again, still back at the beach because the weather's just been absolutely amazing, hasn't it?
It has. And that strawberry daiquiri is still looking rather tempting, isn't it?
Woo! Yes, it really is. Oh, look, I've got the wrong background in the background. That's a mistake for a start. Let's sort that out. We'll go back to this. We'll go back to that one.
Are we still giving a nod to Ukraine with this background?
Yeah, I like this one from last week. I think I do. I mean, the only problem is that our pictures actually obliterate your product. That's the only issue there. But apart from that, it's really rather nice. I'm glad to see that the moss hasn't grown since last week.
Yeah, well, or it hasn't fallen off.
No, it hasn't done anything. It's still exactly the same. They've left those chairs in a messy position as well, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. So, what's been happening this week in the world of everything? So,
well, I think it's the usual topics: the heat, COVID.
Good morning, Odessa.
Hey, Odessa. Do you know what? It just feels like it's a lot of the time it's the same stories. I mean, the really interesting one for me, and obviously I'm sure we'll get into it, was the whole pinging people and businesses then sort of having to shut down, and pubs that are now able to open can't open because the staff are being pinged, and Iceland being pinged, and how do businesses avoid being pinged. So I think that's a really, really big topic that I think we've just started to see the start of, but you can just see problems galore over the summer, can't you, with people wanting to get out and spend their money and holidaying in the UK and rocking up, and pubs and restaurants are pulling down the shutters because they've got no staff to serve. So I think that will roll on beyond hospitality, but obviously into the commercial sector as well, I think, won't it? For people going back to the office, can't you? It kind of worms, isn't it, Graham, this subject?
Well, I have some real life experience to bring to this, to this whole story. So not from myself, because as you know, I don't go anywhere.
No.
I try
never leave that space, do you?
I'm sat here. Well, apart from behind here's the bed. That's where I camp out at night. Although at night at the moment, because it's been quite warm, I think sometimes just been sitting here all night. But other than that, this is it. I go out temporarily in the morning to drop the kids off at school, pick them up again, bring them home. That's it, really. I don't go anywhere else. But my sister, who has multiple jobs, one of which is a sports massage therapist.
Okay.
That is why I'm so pale. All right. Okay. Thanks.
He's a hermit.
No, I do actually go out. I do actually go outside in the garden. I did go outside in the garden for fair bits of the weekend, and I do go and hang the washing out and bring it back in again. So that's useful. But anyway, my sister, who's a sports massage therapist, that's one of her jobs, but she's also does multiple cleaning jobs. She had to self-isolate. She got pinged, ding, on the app, told her that she needed to do a test. She did a lateral flow test that was negative. And then she went to hospital. She was told to go to hospital for a proper test, and she went to hospital and that proved positive. So she was showing no symptoms, but she went to hospital, and therefore she then had to isolate. Now, here's one of the issues. One of the issues is, as I say, she works in multiple locations for multiple people, especially when you're a cleaner, you do that. There is no room on the track and trace app when you've been pinged and you then have to put in where your main point of work is, etc. There is no place on there. If you are working in multiple places for multiple people, you can't put it in there. There's no place for that information.
Okay.
Apparently. I don't know, because I haven't done it, but according to her, she could not put in all of the information about where she worked. So she had to, off of her own back, she had to then contact all of these businesses to say this is what's happening. Now, I'm not going to name no names, but some of those businesses decided straight away they were going to shut. That was it. We're going to shut what was
just on the back of your sister making that call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, one of them's a public house.
Okay.
And they decided, no, we're going to shut. Others of them decided to do absolutely nothing at all. Right. So here's the big issue you've got, right? The app does not allow you, unless it assumes that you are working in one place, one business. This is it. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, it's very, very straightforward. My friend Odessa doesn't like the term "off her own back." I don't know why. I mean, it was out of her own goodwill, whatever you want to say. Anyway, does
this go back to me using the phrase "my bad" last week?
Yeah, it was. I think we're bringing up bad phrases again.
And actually,
anyway.
I did twice since then. I've heard it used on the TV.
Yeah. No, there we go.
Sorry,
Ashley, Odessa, I love the fact that you're watching, but don't use this as an opportunity to just catch up. I mean, if you want to catch up, we'll bring you on. All right, we'll do that. We'll bring you both on in a minute. Cool, dear. Some people they just want to. Stephen, you don't have to disappear on me either. All right, there we go.
Someone's knocking the door, so I was turning around to see who was. At the front door.
Someone's knocking. Someone's knocking at the door. Someone's ringing the bell. Anyway. Where was I with the story? So there we go. So the problem is that the app doesn't allow you to put all of this information in. It's completely dependent upon, people doing the right thing in the first place anyway. And here's the other thing. Lots of people that I've met have said, I just turned the app off or I've got rid of it. Mm. So how do we move forward with that? How do we move forward with that if everybody's doing different things? Talking about everybody moving different things, and I will come on to this in a second. Do you do the school runs at all?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, until last week when the younger one got sent home because their whole bubble had burst. So yeah, when it's available, yes.
Right. Okay. I'm confused as to what's happening there as well. Mm. Right. Because we had, in the middle of all of this, and this is the other subject we need to bring up, we had Freedom Day, right?
Yeah.
So Freedom Day happens. Now, it was very, very clear that the staff at the school where my younger children go wanted to make a point to everybody, right? That because actually sometimes in the past, when they stand outside of the school to show people in, there's been people standing out there, teachers standing out there, and they haven't worn masks because they're outside and they're away from everyone and whatever, and it's not actually on school property, etc. But very, very clearly, every single school teacher, including the one standing outside, right from Freedom Day, were wearing masks. Right? Very clearly. And I think it was to make a point. And the point they were making is we still want people to wear masks. However, as the days, and I've looked at it, you know how you people watch? I've looked at it as the days have gone on since that first day of Freedom Day, as of Monday, less and less people have worn masks to school. Mm. And as it's moving on, less and less people are wearing masks. Now, again, I understand that now you don't have to wear masks, right? But I also understand that I thought the government guidance was, but some places may still need you to wear masks. Quite clearly, the message from that school, although they haven't actually, I don't think, put anything out, the guidance is clearly wear a mask. Otherwise, those teachers wouldn't be standing there so prominently wearing a mask, right? And yet, more and more people are not wearing masks. And the thing is, we knew this was going to happen. Now we're going to get two sections of society, some that are going to want to wear masks, some that are not going to want to wear masks, some that are going to socially distance a little bit, some that are not going to say. I mean, I find it a little bit confusing. to be honest.
We've got a Sainsbury's local near to us, so the mini Sainsbury's, and I've been in there twice since Monday, and both times I've wore a mask, and actually everyone else I've seen in there has worn a mask. But what I did notice from Monday was at the self-checkout area, which had got was divided off, do you know, with these sort of floor to ceiling acrylic screens, were dividing off all of those. Come Monday morning, they've gone. So they've removed. So they're obviously actively encouraging the masks, but have removed the dividers between all the self checkouts, which makes you think: A, well, why have you done that? And B, where's it gone?
Yeah, well, exactly that, isn't it? I mean, it was one of those things where we were being told that this stuff is now going to start disappearing, but I just wonder whether, you know, for some places, is it too quick, especially as rates are beginning to skyrocket again, etc. I just wonder if in some places, I wonder whether some places are going to continue to do it, because, as you say, if they don't do it, suddenly they're going to get pinged out, and then they're not going to have any staff to be able to look after people. But then there are other people going to look at that and go, I don't want to go in there because, you know, that's still all, you know, everything's separated off. That's not got a great atmosphere, etc. Especially hospitality places, you know.
It's a big balancing act, isn't it, for those businesses? You know, almost, you know, who do you appeal to? Do you appeal to the people who still want to follow the rules, which is their thing? Or equally on the flip side, do you then try and lean it to try and tempt in the people who want that normality quite quickly? It's a very difficult balancing act, really, isn't it, as to what they've got to try and achieve, just to get people through the door without offending people, as it were.
Yeah. Are you seeing? Presumably, you're now going around businesses a little bit more again as well. Are you? Are you actually getting out and about a bit more?
To an extent, yes. Not as much as I'd like, and I think with summer coming up, this is usually quite a difficult period of time, Graham, to be honest, in terms of with holidays, etc. So I think to be fully out and about will probably come from the beginning of September for me, I would say. I have did some meetings last week in sort of hospitality areas, in hotels, and you know, as you would expect, a lot quieter, mask rules, etc. But I've not done anything since Monday, so apart from go to a local shop, so I haven't really seen what it's like out in the big wide world since Monday, since Freedom Day or whatever it was badged up as.
Yeah, I mean, I went just before Freedom Day. I went to a pub for my first time. It was just weird. I wasn't ready for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a Spoons, you know, yeah, a Spoons, and I just found it quite annoying, to be honest. I mean, for a start, this was the most annoying thing for me, right? The most annoying thing was they had some guest ales on at the bar, but you weren't allowed up at the bar, so you couldn't see the guest ales.
Right.
I'm going to come on to what Ashley's saying in a minute. In fact, I might even, Ashley, I've sent you a link. If you want to come on, you can come on. But yeah, I went up to, I saw these guest ales and I thought that one looks really quite nice, because I really like quite a nice dark ale, etc. Like a porter and stuff like that. And I saw one and I thought that looks like a really nice ale. But then everything has to be ordered through the app, right? I couldn't order it. It wasn't on the app. So
here's what you could have won. A bit like it's a bit of a bullseye moment where the board used to revolve, and Jim Bowen would show them the yacht that they could have won if they'd scored 101.
Well, so here's the annoying thing, right? So then Gail comes over and says, "Oh, what I can do is I can serve you from here, right?" But she said, "But I can't remember what's behind the bar."
Brilliant.
Right. Okay. She said, if you want to do that, what you need to do is sit by the bar. Okay, so the only way that you get a real ale that's a guest ale is by sitting right next to the pump, so you could literally read the name. Marvelous.
Crazy.
So yeah, it was a bit of an odd experience. So let's come on to what Ashley's saying. Yeah, I agree, Ashley. There's a lot of people are still very worried about this pandemic. Ashley posted about this today because I'm intentionally missing a very beneficial networking meeting because I'm not comfortable. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot more people actually on LinkedIn in particular beginning to talk about proper networking events and being involved in actual networking events and advertising those, but I'm just not sure about it. But we can ask Ashley himself because here he is. Hi, Ashley.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, well, I'm good. So we don't care. We just let people in.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's just spontaneous. It's of the moment. There you go. So tell me,
there was no COVID passport needed.
Here, isn't it?
What's that you've got there?
The branded shirt.
Oh, branded shirt. Yeah, I've got my branded shirt on as well. This is Christian Hirsch. This is her last solo album, Possible Dust Clouds. Thanks, Christian. You can send me a tenner. Right. So, there you go.
So yeah, I totally agree. I was really looking forward to this networking event today, and my daughter's coming down at the weekend with her baby and son-in-law. The numbers are on the rise. I actually know quite a few people who've got COVID or are just coming over it, or have got long COVID, or are isolating. My mentor's isolating at the moment because his son's got it, and he's not been able to go and do loads of things. So he's swearing all the time I speak to him. And it doesn't seem that long ago that I didn't know anyone who had it. It was quite a novelty. But now it seems that we know loads of people. And so they've got this big networking event, and there's going to be 50 people there. And they're all absolutely awesome people that, lots of them I know, but there's some great, cool people I want to meet. And I'm sort of like thinking, well, what's the most important thing to do? And I actually had a good chat with a very good friend who's not in business. We've known her for years, and I came to the realization, I'd probably already come to the realization that I wasn't going to go before I phoned her, but just chatting to her made me realize that, what is the most important thing in my life? And it's got to be my health and that of my family. And much that I want to go, it's just going to stall the growth of my business just a tad. But everybody, my biggest worry was, is everyone going to think I'm a wuss or whatever? But from listening to you talking, from seeing stuff online, following my posts and stuff like that, I think everybody's scared. And there's only a few people who are sort of like, it doesn't matter. But when they get it, it's a bit late, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a bit late. And did what I was saying about my sister resonate as well? The fact that you just can't, that this system is just messed up. At the end of the day, if you've got multiple jobs or you're involved in multiple organisations or whatever, it just doesn't allow you to put the information in correctly. So there's how many other people are like that? How many other people do multiple jobs in order to make ends meet? I mean, especially I have to say, especially in our part of the country, it's still not the richest part of the world for a lot of people. There's still a lot of people down around here that do a little bit of factory work and a little bit of work over here and bar work or whatever. If they can't put into that system exactly where they've been, then it makes a nonsense of it.
Yeah, exactly. So my sister is a hairdresser, but she hasn't got as much work as she wants. So she's having to go and work in a factory. So she's got all those people coming in to have their hair cut. So where have they been? And then she's got and then she's going in the factory, and where I'm lucky. I'm in this little bubble that I live in. But the bottom line is, right, I then sent a message to the family group, my daughters and my wife, guys, I'm not going. And my daughter phoned me, my daughter with the baby, she phoned me up. She said, Dad, why? Is it something I said? I said, no, sweetie. And I explained. And she said, well, that's really good, because I haven't told you before, but I wouldn't have come at the weekend. And
wow.
and you know you've made the right decision then, don't you?
Oh, totally.
But to be fair to her, she hadn't said, it's not you go, I don't come. It's just make the decision.
Yeah.
Which
she was putting you first in that.
Yeah, exactly. But she knows how important it is to my business, because for me to mix with these people is really going to help accelerate the growth of my business, because they're people that I need to be working with and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I don't want long COVID. A friend of mine's sister's got long COVID and she's got tinnitus. That's the last thing I want as a musician.
Yeah, no, we'll come on to that in a second. Now, the other thing is that I did a little bit of work with one of my clients during the week about the types of events that people might want to now go to. And that was really quite interesting, because we did a little bit of a survey and it was about half and half. A lot of people saying, yeah, they want to get back to the big events, going out to a large corporate exhibition, etc., trade show, whatever. And then half the people saying, no, I'd rather, if it was anything, I'd rather it was a smaller, low-key event, smaller numbers, closer to home. I don't really want to travel so far anymore as well. Because in all honesty, a lot of it is about how you actually get there as well, especially with a bigger event. You may have been to, Stephen, you will have definitely, but Ashley, have you ever been to things like anything at Excel or anything like that before now? Yeah.
Yes. So got involved with all the accounting shows there, and it's rammed, isn't it?
Oh yeah, especially as you get to the last part of the Jubilee line or whatever, and it's like they're herding you. Yeah, they're herding you along.
Sardine.
That way. It's awful. But for me, even if when you get in the hall, it's fairly spread out and it's just the getting there in itself is just not going to be a pleasant experience, and I don't know that it's a safe experience. Going to something more locally, I think, helps. I can remember in the middle of all of this, actually, just as we were getting into the first, or before the first lockdown, I can remember coming back down the motorway from Birmingham area, actually, Stephen, and stopping at Gloucester Services, and then not stopping at Gloucester Services, because as I pulled into Gloucester Services, it was just rammed with people, and I just thought, I just don't want to be in that,
And the interesting thing from what you've said there, Graham, is if you think about it, almost put the health piece to one side, think of it from a commercial perspective. If you're putting on these events and you've got to make it work financially, and you've got a 50-50 split roughly from what you've said, it then makes it then goes two ways. Either comes too expensive and people won't go, or you risk losing money and getting a very low attendance. So it's a real difficult sort of thought process for those people putting those events on, as to, do we go ahead with it, because we could be only appealing to 50% of the audience we appealed to previously, and then it becomes, to say, then whilst it shouldn't always be a commercial issue, it becomes a commercial issue. And then actually do you then get stuck in this sort of situation where no one dares put anything on because they're not sure how many people turn up, because actually they only think 50% of the people are comfortable to go. So you actually then potentially just get stuck in this of going round and round where nothing actually potentially could happen. It's a real difficult one, isn't it? It's from a personal perspective, I wouldn't be too keen on these larger shows. I've been doing smaller one-to-one meetings with people, or maybe in smaller groups. Would I immediately want to go, as Ashley said, with numbers going up, into big enclosed environments? I don't think so at this moment in time, and I'm quite comfortable with the whole mask thing and following the rules. To me, that's a step too far at this moment in time, from my perspective. But equally, I could be on one side of the fence, and other people could be on the other side.
I personally, I don't want to get into a large group situation, full stop, at the moment. The other thing.
What about outdoors, Graham? Is your thought on that indoors and outdoors, or do you see them as a very and maybe to you as well, Ashley? Do you see these as two distinct pieces, or would you put them in the same sort of bucket?
Do you know what I'm going to say? I don't see a difference between indoor and outdoor, to be honest. Do you know what? I said it a little bit last week as well. I personally think we're a little bit ignorant about how this thing is cool. Yep. I do. I honestly think that we are a little bit ignorant about it because, I don't think it's any surprise that the numbers in young males suddenly went up during the Euro finals. Yeah.
Oh, so it wasn't 96, was it?
Yeah. Well, that as well.
Age.
Yeah. Because, honestly believe it's more to do with, right, there's your drink, Gary. There's your one. Yeah. There's your one. I mean, if you're physically touching stuff, whoops.
Graham, can you not? You're not getting the round in. You are not managing the kitchen.
Didn't need that handle, did you?
Yeah.
That didn't sit back on that thing properly, did it? But look, dramatic effect. Ding. But I think, I'm sure, when you get things like drinking in close quarters and people start having alcohol and stuff like that, the likelihood of someone touching their face or touching their mouth or whatever and then touching something, etc. We all know the stories about why you shouldn't eat bar food,
Yeah.
because of what's on people's hands.
We're talking about peanuts now, aren't we?
Peanuts, yeah.
We all know the story. We all know that one. So here's a question to you guys.
Yeah.
Do you quarantine your weekly shop?
Oh, very interesting. No, I eat it. Because I believe the stomach kills most things. Well, mine does anyway. Or it kills my stomach.
Because when it first hit, we sort of like we'd put the non-perishables in the garage.
Right.
And then leave them there for a couple of days and then bring it all in. So I go shopping and then the wife 2 days later, she goes shopping.
I heard about people who were using Dettol to clean or to wipe down, Dettol wipes or whatever, to wipe down everything that came in if they had a home delivery or actually went out, they were wiping every single thing down. I heard a few people doing that.
When it originally started, I remember watching people coming out of the local supermarket, opening the back of the car and then standing there, pulling it out of a bag, wiping it all down, putting it in another space, wiping it all down, putting it in that. I just think, no, I mean, the answer to that was no. I just made sure I washed my hands, both ends, etc., and made sure I was clean. And then, because I'm not gonna eat that food straight away anyway. Maybe, but I think we've become a bit more lax with that. But to be honest, I don't know whether that's going to be the way that you catch it.
But wasn't there that case where a big office block, loads of people got it and they worked it back, and it was from pushing the button to get to the next floor in the lift?
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I can believe that. I believe
because
that,
a lot of buildings closed the lifts down, didn't they, at the very start? And I think that still is the case, that actually some buildings have actually just made the lifts almost out of bounds, and it was very much use the stairs.
But you know what? Again, you know what that is, Ashley? That is because people do that.
Yeah.
But honestly, people sit there in an office.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They put their fingers in their mouth and then someone touches the thing. I honestly believe, and I'll be inundated with people saying this is completely wrong, but I honestly believe that actually sort of saliva or bodily fluids are the main reason that this transfers. And I think it's actually from people putting their hand by them. That's one of the reasons why I was not against mask wearing per se when the mask came out, but I certainly thought that wearing masks was not necessarily a great idea because people don't wear masks properly, right? Yeah. And you would go to shops or whatever, and you'd see people go, "Oh yeah, that's great." You know, Or I mean, even standing there in the shop and just like, you know, down, up, down, up, down, up. You just think you're touching your face, you're touching your mouth, you're touching that mask. That mask is now dirty. That mask is doing absolutely diddly squat. Right. In fact, you're going to touch something else. Now you're going to infect things. Right. If you're like my wife who works in the surgery, yeah, if you wear a mask, as soon as if you touch anything to do with that mask, it goes in the bin. And yeah, actually, I have watched. Here's an interesting one. Watched TV programs from COVID wards on the TV, and doctors are going, touching their mask, putting it back again. You think, what don't you understand about cross infection? This is not going to end well. It's not going to end well. So yeah, what's your opinion on mask wearing?
For me,
yeah,
I think with mask wearing, right, it's like wearing a shirt in a restaurant. Okay, if I walked into a restaurant and I didn't have a shirt on, it's rude to everybody else in the restaurant. Okay, and I think by wearing a mask, you're showing that you're respecting everybody else's feelings, thoughts, and what have you. I'm not a scientist, and you hear all this stuff that it's ineffective and goodness knows what else. But I think if we show a little bit of respect, you wouldn't go into a posh, swanky restaurant without a shirt on. So that's my view.
Yeah. So coming back to where we were starting this conversation. Is it now that we've had this Freedom Day, is it now actually just even more difficult? Because, as I say, going to do the school drop-off now, some people are wearing masks, some people aren't wearing masks. Some people clearly don't care a toss anymore about anything. Other people still want to follow a line. I just don't think anybody can tell anymore. And I think it's really difficult if you are actually worried about it. I think it's really, really difficult. I think there's going to be a lot of people suffering from anxiety issues over this whole area.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
And that's what really concerns me. I can see a lot of more people becoming agoraphobic, to be honest, because actually they're going to think, I'm not going to go out because society's not following any rules out there, and I can't see any distinction between the people that are, how do I know that I'm going to go in that supermarket and the next person next to me, well, they're not going to be wearing a mask. They could be touching anything, they could be standing in my face, and it doesn't matter anymore. There seems to be a massive divide in society as to what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. I'm not saying one's right and one's wrong, but we should. I agree completely with what you say, Ashley. I think we should be understanding of other people. So even if I thought that mask wearing was completely wrong, completely futile, etc., should I wear a mask in a public place where it's crowded and where people may feel vulnerable? I think I should.
No, exactly. Guys, thanks for having me on. I've got a 12:30 I need to shoot to.
That's fine. No, thank you very much for coming on. It's been lovely to see you.
Yeah,
next time we're getting to play his guitar. You have to learn some Shed 7 though.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because I'm in a shed.
Yeah.
No, because Stephen loves Shed 7.
All right, okay. See you guys.
Or Oasis. We could do Oasis. Okay, yes. Bye for now. There you go. I could tell he had to go. He had to get out of here.
Yeah.
But interesting. No, it's interesting that he's had to give up on that networking event because of that, and that and it comes right back and affects families as well, like that. That if you make a choice over here, what's going to be the implication of that somewhere else?
It'd be interesting to know, Graham. And out of all the people that were due to go to that event, say there were 50, I wonder how many other people made the same call. There must have been a number. They can't. It's such a divisive subject. I wouldn't surprise me if there were quite a few people did exactly the same as Ashley on that and just said, actually, this isn't for me at the moment.
No, I agree, and that's the thing. I was actually going to say to him at one point there, I wonder whether that event's actually even going to happen. Because that's the other thing at the moment, is loads of things I hear are just getting turned around at the last minute.
Yeah.
You know, it's to plan something at the moment almost seems like it's too much, really.
Yeah.
To plan something. I still think we're going to carry on doing a lot more stuff online than we perhaps hoped that we would, but
yeah,
you know, there you go. Talking about getting out and about, I also had a little bit of a question to ask about scooters this morning.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I saw that, and I saw friend of the show Paul Skinner had quite a bit to say on that as well on one of his replies. I saw that just before we.
Did he? I haven't caught up with that yet. So
okay.
Tell me what did Paul Skinner have to say?
It was just quite a lot. That was all I remember saying. He had some quite strong opinions on it. I don't know if you can bring it up what Paul said, Graham, but it was quite interesting as to what Mr. Paul had to say. I wonder if Paul's around. I wonder if we can get Paul in on the show.
I don't know if Paul was listening. That would be marvelous. Paul, if you're listening, let us know, and that would be great. So this morning, what it was, folks, just so you know, I did a little poll, as you do, and the poll was about e-scooters because, and I'll just recap on the story for those people that haven't read the post as of yet. Basically. There was a story in the BBC News this morning about a 3-year-old who'd been hit and injured by an e-scooter. And apparently the person that did it did stop to say that they were sorry, but you know, they were actually quite seriously injured, etc. And I was just saying, I never ever expected to see e-scooters where I live, because this is, as towns go, quite a small town, right? And I can walk from one end of this town to the other quite easily. And yet, a couple of months back, these blue electric scooters suddenly appeared everywhere, all over the town.
Yeah.
Right. So 524 votes so far.
Wow.
This is quite a topic, isn't it? And so I was just putting both sides of it out there. I have heard, I mean, it's a weird one with electric scooters because they're actually illegal to ride. Okay, if you own
Did you say
an electric
legal
scooter,
or illegal?
They're illegal to own and ride on the road or whatever a electric scooter.
Okay.
If it's your own, right? But apparently, if you have one of these rental scooters, that's okay. Because it comes under a government scheme that's being trialled around the country in terms of a more environmentally friendly way of transporting people around.
So can you ride them legally on the pavement, Graham, are you saying?
Do you know what? I don't know. If anybody knows, if anybody's listening to this during the day and they know a bit more, then lovely. Yes. So Paul said quite a lot. About the same size and weight, output as a bicycle. And while council planners across the country fail to come to terms with the transport infrastructure, these brilliantly simple devices, which could solve so many problems, have been ignored because the government continues to differ. A skateboard ridden by a pilot will damage anyone it's ridden into. Yeah. And then obviously people are coming in. They're currently unregulated, and some people are using them as they see fit.
Okay.
So if you don't mind people riding skateboards dangerously because they're not motorized, do you have a problem with e-bikes? Yeah, I get it. I think it's a really interesting subject.
How's the poll looking, Graham, so far? What you've had 500 plus votes. What's the split?
Okay, yeah. So the split on this. So good environmental option 14%, dangerous as hell 36%. Okay in the right places 43%, and not sure 6%.
That's hardly a ringing endorsement for them, is it? Let's be honest.
It's really not. So I guess I kind of go with the okay in the right places, And I can understand, you know, if you were to use an electric scooter, maybe in something like a designated kind of cycle lane stroke thing in a city, you know, with big enough roads, and you know, far away enough from, you know, the pavement is wide enough to be not an issue. Fine. What I was saying was round here, I honestly don't understand why in the first place, in a way, because the only people, as I said in my thing, the only people that I've seen use them are people going to and from the pub, which raises its own issues, doesn't it?
Right? Yeah. Can you be drunk in charge of an e-scooter if it's illegal to ride it?
No.
A lot of negatives in there.
No is the answer to that. But then I can see. What
about a skateboard?
Well, I can see the appeal, right, for some people. But you shouldn't drink and drive anything. But I can see why some people think, oh, I can just get on this. I can get up to the pub in like 5 minutes. Boom, boom, boom. Get back. And then the other time that I've seen them is that youngsters keep taking them, go onto the pavement, onto the roads, go round in loops around the town for a bit of fun. So it's almost like legalized joyriding, or they take them down the skate park and see whether they can break them down the skate park on the, you know,
ramps
or whatever. That to me, in no shape or form, sounds like a great idea or a business model, to be honest.
Struggling with this concept, Graham, myself here. It seems a lot of negativity and a lot of illegality regarding this product. Although if it's environmentally friendly, is that why people are looking at it?
Environmentally friendly is why people are looking at it. And that's why I say it may be in a city centre where you've got if you have the right lane for
sort of infrastructure.
Yeah, and you had the right infrastructure for it, you know, for it to be ridden in. And possibly where people are a bit more aware of traffic anyway. That kind of makes sense. Round here, I think it could be dangerous. You know, we don't have massive roads. We don't have massive pavements. It's you know, an old town. I just think, you know, and also another thing there is, unless you were disabled or had a disability of some description, in which case it'd be useful for you to be able to get around, in which case you'd probably be able to access a battery car and a grant for a battery car, which is, you know, still not great in my eyes, but is potentially a lot safer, both for you and everybody else. At the end of the day, you can walk, you know, and what's more environmentally friendly than walking? You know, in fact, at the same time as there being an environmental problem, there's an obesity problem in the country. Why don't people just stop using their cars and walk a bit more? There you go.
Valid point.
That's what I've got to say on the subject. But yeah, it's interesting. One of the places, interestingly, one of the places where they put one of their little stops, because you have these various stops around the town in order to have them, was up at the school. Right? So I can only imagine that the concept there was that you might use this to get to and from the school in order to pick your kids up from the school run. How's that work?
Yeah. Unless all the teachers round by you like to use them.
Oh, well, you never know, do you? You never know. Maybe they do. Maybe the teachers like to use them.
Yeah, the teachers taking them to the skate parks and things like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're trying to pin it on the teenagers, Graham, but actually it turns out it's the teachers in your town.
Absolutely. Now, listen, so if anyone's got any more details about electric scooters, please do get involved in this whole conversation. I think it's quite an interesting one. I am willing to listen to it, because there is potentially an environmental aspect to it, which I think, you know, we've got to find alternatives to cars, you know. And I would say within the centre, say for example, in the centre of London, an electric scooter could be a really useful way of getting around. I mean, if you could drop it off between tube stations and places like that, so you've got that. Yeah. You know, you've got lots of drop-off points as well, and it's making sense as long as it's safe. You know, as long as it's not going to knock somebody over, and as long as there's the infrastructure for it, I think it's a fantastic idea. Yeah. Are there any ergonomic stories this week? I feel we've almost kind of abandoned ergonomics this week, which is a shame. But
we usually manage to crowbar one in, don't we, Graham? We usually manage to find a link from one of our topics and then feed it back into ergonomics. You put me on the spot. Let me have a think. Let's keep thinking about that. I don't suppose ergonomics per se, but I guess the whole, we touched on it briefly, is sort of this returning to the office. And I mean, I was really interested to know as to what happened on Monday on the transport network, because and being absolutely, you know, not talking about political leanings or whatever, but I did see Sir Keir Starmer predicting Armageddon on the public transport on Monday. And unless I missed it, I didn't really see anything following that up. So I'm presuming there was no Armageddon because it wasn't followed up and that story carried on. But I'd be interested to know what the sort of take up or the increase on public transport was on the first 2 or 3 days of this week, you know, tying it into the ergonomics and where are people working, how many people, you know, seized the opportunity to go back into work on Monday. I wonder I'd be interested to know what London in particular, which is, you know, the tube and all that, I wonder what that looked like. Again, I've not seen anything that would sort of backed up or verified people changing their places of work. Did hybrid working suddenly kick off on Monday with people getting back into the office? Who knows?
Do you know what? I reckon that most people thought because of the heat. Yeah. Why would you want to go on the tube anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, let's face it, if it's 30 degrees outside or above, what temperature is it on the tube?
It's got to be 50. It's got to be pushing 50, surely.
It's got to be absolutely mental. And, you know, to me, that's like a COVID incubator, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, I'm pretty certain a lot of people went, do you know what? This heat, you know, well, actually, because of the heat, they might have gone, well, because of this heat, I'm staying at home.
Yeah.
And I'm going to continue working from home.
Do you remember probably when, you know, I don't know, 20 or 30 years ago, you used to find funny things when it was really warm where someone would try and fry an egg on the pavement? Have we seen any of that going on this week? Because it has been very warm, hasn't it? Where someone would try and crack an egg on the pavement of London and get it to fry. I wonder if any of that's gone on.
I haven't seen that. I mean, I saw, you know, again, there's been a lot of unrest and activity in London in terms of demonstrations, etc., and people reporting on that. I honestly believe that not a lot of, I don't believe there was that great groundswell of people going back to the office that people thought there would be. You know, and whether, as I say, whether that was something to do with just the time of year anyway, maybe people were actually going on holiday as well, because
kids isolating it, maybe people having to stay at home because of the last throes of the term with a lot of, what the number was ridiculous, wasn't it? Was it 1 million? Did I see 750,000 or something kids at home? I wonder again, if whilst term has generally finished today, I wonder how many people were then forced to stay at home because of that. So actually, did the weather and the school piece, all that, I wonder if it actually diluted the impact of Freedom Day on the return to the office and public transport.
Yeah, I'd love anyone, if anyone's watching this and they, you know, live in the city centre, etc. I'd love to know if they saw any kind of big movement back to the office.
I noticed Graham Odessa's just come back. Friend of the show. I wonder, because I know she's a hybrid worker. She was talking about. I wonder if she, on the first 3 days of this week, went back to the office as one of her office working days. I wonder if she noticed any difference.
Yeah. Odessa, if you like to comment on that, if you want to come on, you've got a link anyway. You can certainly do that. But yeah, I just think I didn't see, there was no news stories of like suddenly the underground was absolutely heaving with people, or any, as you say, Armageddon that was kind of meant to happen in terms of public transport, etc. For a start, I'm sure that the public transport systems were all saying, no, everything's still limited. You've got to, you can't just necessarily get on the train and pack it full. Even though the some of the other social distancing things and the face mask wearing has gone, I'm sure a lot of those individual restrictions still applied, and therefore it wasn't an option. An option to suddenly fly back in and everybody do it. So no difference, she says. No difference. There you go. It's exactly the same. And I think it's exactly the same for most people. We regularly test, so the office feels no different than pre-pandemic. We're distanced more with desks, but otherwise fine. There you go. I'm sure people have either gone back, and they've gone back with restrictions still in place. Nothing's changed in that respect, or they've continued to work from home. They've continued to carry on the way that they've done. So I don't think this is going to be a massive change for a while. And the other thing is, there's an air of caution at the moment as well, because we all know, right? There's let's face it, there's two stories going on here. One is Freedom Day, right? Freedom Day has been gone. It's happened, but as soon as Freedom Day came, the stories in the newspapers turned to the fact that, has Boris done the right thing? What has, the stories around, whether this should have happened or not have happened, etc. And now the stories are turning their attention to when's lockdown going to happen again. Yeah, and I think, and also the NHS again. Are we going to get the NHS to breaking point again? I don't know what the figure rise was today. But a lot of people predicting end of September, October as potentially some kind of restrictions coming back in again as we head towards winter.
Was it inevitable, Graham? Was it inevitable that this wouldn't be the end, do you think?
Yeah. There you go. All the feedback I'm getting is that people, should I clarify, sensible people are still wearing masks in public places. Yeah. Well, that's a matter of opinion. You see, as is anything, but I think people should be able to have their opinion in terms of mask wearing and wear it if you want to.
Yeah, and obviously there's things that we've picked up is this real drive to sort of get the vaccination to the 18 to 30 area, isn't it, really? I think that's been another thing that we sort of picked up this week, and talk of nightclubs reopening, but from the 1st of October or whatever it would be, you've got to have some sort of COVID passport, to prove vaccination, etc. So, there's so many, you almost thought this is the day all the rules were going to end, but actually, like you say, it's brought more in. It's brought an element of complication. People, you still having to run all these scenarios through your mind, aren't you? As what can I do? What can't I do? So it's a tricky one, really. But it's interesting you mentioned about the COVID track and trace app. I wonder how many people have now loaded up the NHS app, which has got your QR code to show you've been double vaccinated, because that's the one they're talking about is potentially something you might have to show if you went to an outdoor event with over 20,000 people. So if you're going to a reasonably sized sporting event, I wonder how many people are now, on the flip side of taking one app off, I wonder how many people are now putting one app on to go, there's my QR code, I'm good to go.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet. Have you done it?
I did it yesterday, and it took 2 minutes to do, from getting the app on the smartphone. I couldn't find my NHS number, but by putting in all sorts of other information, it brought it up. Now, I don't know whether this will work, Graham, on this, so I'll just see if I can.
That's marvellous, isn't it? So you have to know things like your wife's first dog or something like that.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. But I'm just trying to find it now. And again, this may not work particularly well, but if I just see if I can get this to open. not making for great viewing, but I just wanted to show you as to what it actually sort of looked like in terms of the app. So,
apparently the app, the track and trace app is scanning more.
oh, is it?
Yeah. Scanning at 10 p.m., 2 a.m. and random times. Wow. There you go.
Oh, wow. Well, so I don't know again if this will. You can see the app
hold
there.
it there. Hold it there. Yeah. Login options. Open.
So
settings,
I've done that, and then if you go to this bit here,
is this now your? This is your passport.
This is, yeah.
Wow.
So it now gives me. Oh, hang on.
Look, you get a QR code now.
So that apparently is my QR code if someone asks me for proof of double vaccination. So by putting the app on, I mean, probably from start to finish, Graham, within 3 minutes, I got access to that. So
interesting.
There you go. So again, I wonder if we'll see the usage of that one go up and the other one down. So
yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that won't like being scanned and everything known about them.
Personal choice. That's fine if that's what I need to do certain things. For me, if it means loading an app and doing that, I'm happy to do it. But equally, I can understand why some people wouldn't. You know, it's like you say, it's personal choice, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to do it because I still, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get to see Shed 7 in December.
Yeah.
You know, that's on the agenda. It'd be my first live gig since this all happened. I can't imagine what it'll be like to go to a gig.
No.
It'd just be weird.
Yeah.
After so long. And I don't know whether people will go in and just let themselves go like they normally do in the gig, or whether it's going to be a bit kind of
shuffle. Yeah.
Just over there.
Yeah.
Oh, look, someone from the band's going to dive from the stage and everyone goes, out the way.
And he face plants in the floor.
Face plant. Sorry, we can't touch anybody.
No.
So stage diving might be off for a while. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be really interesting to see what it's like and it feels like to get back into those situations. I've been amazed watching some of these events on TV, these trial events where people have been in big situations, because they had like a music event at Donington with no restrictions, or very few restrictions, loads of people moshing in the mosh pit, and you just think it must be, on the one hand, it must be great to be in that. At the same time, you might be feeling a little bit apprehensive that you are putting yourself into a situation which potentially could do something. What's this? I only been to one gig, would love to get back to it. Oh, trust me, music's where it's all at. Yeah, music is definitely where it's all at. Well, look, we've had a really good chat this week about lots of things.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Next week, we do have a special guest on the show. So we have the human lie detector, Darren Stanton, on the show next week.
Brilliant.
All the way from ITV, BBC. He's well, I can't say too much because he is currently doing something really interesting. Right. That's all I'm going to say. His current project, if he tells us about it, then that's fine. But let's just say, when he told me who he's currently watching, because what he does, as part of what he does, is he watches and observes people, and then he gives people information about whether that person's lying.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's put it this way: he's been involved with some fairly high-profile politicians recently, but this person that he told me this week that he was doing was just like, oh my word. That's really interesting. I'm just hoping. I'm hoping that he can talk a little bit about that. And if anybody would like to come on and let Darren find out whether you're telling lies or not, that would be great.
Yeah.
Challenge. Oh, come on and tell a lie, or tell 2 truths and a lie, and let's see whether Darren can tell. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Oh,
We'll
make sure we get plenty of people lined up for that one. That'll be a good one.
That's one for next week. Stephen, been pleasure again. Have a good week. Don't get too sunburnt out there.
No.
Make sure you wear Factor 50, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
See you next week.
Bye.